All right, great.
Hi,
Should be recording. So, hello, nice to meet you, Rabbi.
nice to meet you, Professor
Uh,
James Lindroth. Which university are you at?
I'm at Northeastern State University in Oklahoma, near Tulsa.
Cool. I'm a big fan of USA. Always wanted to live there. There's always the possibility we might move there. And
Oh, okay.
Oklahoma is down southwest, Midwest.
Midwest,
Right.
just above Texas.
Yeah. We came close to there. The closest we got was probably um, Arizona or Colorado.
Okay.
We didn't touch New Mexico. We almost got there. We got to that 4 point
Okay.
on our
And
drive.
what do you do? What's your day gig? You have a synagogue? You teach? You make
I am a
content?
programmer.
Okay.
I'm just a programmer. That's how I get my money. And I do have a shul, but I'm not the official rabbi there, but I do give the weekly talk. So that's how I do my rabbinics. But beyond that, that's all I do. Look after my family, make a bit
Awesome.
of content. And yourself, what are you a professor of? What's the subject?
Oh, Professor of education, mainly music.
Oh
So,
yes.
yeah, my main goal is to take undergraduate students and turn them into orchestra, band, choir directors, or elementary music teachers. And
Oh wow.
that's basically what I do. I was a band orchestra director for 16 years before coming over to higher ed about 14 years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Music is one of the best gifts that Hashem gave man.
Oh,
And to be
absolutely.
involved in that.
And it's a phenomenon that, when I take these basically students who love music, ask them, why is music so important? And, we go into why is it that every society has music integrated in their culture? And it's really just sound and silence. That's all music is. And makes them think a little bit because it is a phenomenon, which is a gift from Hashem. I totally agree. And teaching on the secular level, nobody has a good answer of why music is so important to everybody that can hear.
What's the best answer you ever heard that from a secular level?
Just that it's an unexplained phenomenon um, that's built into our culture, that's sort of built into our DNA for some reason somehow. Ethnomusicologists are trying to figure it out, but they just can't. It's unexplainable.
Hmm.
I haven't met anybody who can hear that doesn't enjoy music. Might not be my music, but they enjoy music.
Yeah,
And that's a reason why children should explore to how to manipulate sound to make meaning.
yeah.
That's kind of the basis of where I go to start them off on their journey here. And then, we get in the nitty gritty of how to teach music, but I enjoy it. It's what pays the bills for me.
Yeah. No, I would love to be involved in music. I've got a musical ear, but I was never taught an instrument, and I would love to teach my children. They're coming of age now. The oldest is 7.
Well,
Good
there's
time to start learning.
a lot of theories now in the scientific world, which I think is great. I wish they had this when I was learning, but they can examine the brain through MRI and other devices, I guess, and seeing how music lights up different connections of the billion connections we have in our brain. And it's amazing. I mean, look at music therapy with people with Alzheimer's.
I never heard of that.
I
Is that
mean,
a thing?
it's just this amazing phenomenon that can only be a gift. That's
Yeah.
the
Just last week, I heard a song, and for some reason, it stirred me. It really did. I wasn't feeling very good, and it's like it was better than any painkiller I can imagine. I just was instantly transported into as good a mood as can be, if that makes sense. And it was just one song, hit me at the right time, the right way, stirred my soul. So I can totally imagine its use as therapy. But also, if you listen to music for too long, you kind of get a bit desensitized and you have to take a bit of a break. At least I do. I'm not sure if that's also a recognized thing, but
Yeah, it's strange, like with me, I listen to it takes me about an hour each way to get to work because I live actually in Tulsa, and this is about a 50-minute drive to me for work. So you'd imagine a professor does nothing but listen to music all the time. Well, no, I'm listening to Torah podcasts or Chabad.org, listen to audio classes. Sometimes you need that break from music. You're absolutely right.
right.
And, so that's where I'm from. I think my background. I've only been studying Torah for about less than a year. And it's been Yoni that's sort of provided the guidance and teaching. And of course, Rabbi Manis is such a wonderful knowledge base of everything. I mean, not only Torah, but I think he's a wonderful social psychologist. I tell him that, and he kind of says, no, no, no.
He's profoundly wise, and very well studied, the Torahs, especially the Torah of Chassidut.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I found your essay really to be well done. And I've been trying to think, as as the other rabbis of thinking about the does God need question and the whole controversy with that. And I think you really have done yourself very, very well. It seems like Rabbi Manis isn't very interested in sources and quotes. I mean, that's just the way that he is. He's more on logic, I think. But I think you really, and make no mistake, I mean, I am a Gentile novice amateur Torah person. I mean, I've only been studying it for less than a year. So when I come across, please forgive me if my ignorance, and even if any offense, like, oh, what is that? It's not any offense, being placed towards anything. It's just me trying to figure out things. So I'm going to come across.
I won't take any offense. Pardon?
I said that's just how I'm going to come across with it.
Go for it. Don't worry about being offensive. Don't want any barriers. Questions.
Yeah. So
You can't offend me.
A couple of questions that I have, and maybe just to kind of have a conversation more than me just ask questions.
Yeah.
Expressions versus essence. And and I understand essence also, we're talking about utmos with Hashem. But just on the basics of expressions and essence, I think you really nailed it well on expressions as a form of expressing the self or even identity is not the core of who we are, maybe the self, or as you put it, essence. And by the way, when you say essence, are you really trying to talk about the person's self? Is it another way of saying self?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I do know
synonyms, pretty much.
I do think that with my experience with Chabad and Hasidus philosophy, they do like essence over self. So I guess we'll go with essence. And it is true. Expressions is not a person's essence, but can be expressions or actions from expressions does help define essence. Am I off base on that?
No, that's perfectly true. And it can also be the opposite. That's lying. That's being deceptive. But yes, they are an opportunity to express and reveal the essence, which is unrevealable in and of itself.
So a lot of, from the academic side, studies in self, studies in even cultural psychology and the self, dealing with others, communications, relationships, not with Hashem, but with other humans. I mean, there's so many different studies on that. But really, we're talking about a cult. If you take the cultural perspective of you and Hashem, me and Hashem, it's a totally different cultural world that we don't understand compared to relationships with other humans. Yes?
I didn't quite follow that. What do you mean?
Well, it's just like when we're dealing with uh, ourselves here on Earth, we have meanings from different signs, different relationships, rules, regulations, rituals, laws, whatever. A lot of our self here and how we deal with others is based on that cultural phenomenon of self. And I'm not doing a good job of explaining it academically, so forgive me. But when we take how we deal and express ourselves with humans, and now we're taking it to Hashem, we kind of have to throw a lot of that cultural perspective out because we don't really understand, or maybe there is no cultural understanding of Hashem's world.
Well, firstly, I'll just say that don't worry if you struggle to put this into words, because this is, in theory, by definition, the hardest thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Talking about the side of us that is beyond words. And even I'm struggling to find ways to talk about it. So I'm not sure I fully understood your question, but I'll at least say like this. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is our opportunity to get into Hashem's world and understand what it is like to have a relationship with him, as well as provide that relationship. It is the relationship itself. It's him revealing himself to us and giving us an opportunity to attach ourselves to him. Did that help?
Yeah, I think that does help. And I think where I'm at in my very novice level of Torah, I'm looking at Torah from a different perspective, which is enlightening to me, because, the Christian side of the first 5 books of Moses is a historical count. It's Moses' summary of what happened to that point in time. But looking at it now as the actual word of Hashem, I tell you, I read it differently, and I read it with a big gulp in my throat of the awesomeness of what I'm reading. And it's very, very different than my experience with it before, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's just recognizing the awesomeness of God here, where before it was, it's just a summary. Because, I don't want to speak for Christians, but in a lot of Christians, that's just what they, take it to be. It's just a history, good stories, but, Bible stories, not
right.
God revealing himself. And now when I'm reading that and studying as God revealing himself, his essence and his plan, it's just a game changer. But I'm getting off track, but it's all good.
I would say in response to that possibly, and again, I'm also not speaking for all Christians, but Christians view the opportunity to get close and personal with Hashem in that man, that he's personified as a person, whereas Jews have the opportunity to get close to Hashem through his word. And that's where there's a similarity as well as a difference there, as you can see. So if a person is not viewing the Torah as Hashem's word, they might get the same feeling from trying to relate to him through the way the Christians do it, which is not the correct way, but it's satisfying the same desire to get close to God. Once a person realizes that you can get close to God without that, you can just look at what he said, because this is his word, it's his eternal word, his blueprint for creation, his revelation for himself, then it's usually quite reassuring for somebody, especially going through the trauma of separating themselves from that religion, which can be quite difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I like how you talked about, and we're dealing with expressions, I assume, that I am not my feelings, but one who uses them basically through a system to reveal parts of myself. And that's exactly, I think, what you're trying to say that Torah does with Hashem, yes?
Yes, it tells us his feelings, his thoughts, his wisdom, his desires.
So when people say, that, or they read that, God is angry, or God, is it loves, all of these expressions. We're actually meaning that it's not who he is, but it's expressions that finally gets to the point of who he is. Is that
Very much so. You can find out a lot about a person by seeing what makes him angry, for example.
with my conversations with Rabbi Friedman, it always gets to the question that you get to at the end of this essay of, um, well, yeah, but he really doesn't need. Yeah, but he really doesn't love, and I think it's a game changer for me to say that we're the mushal, we're the metaphor. And I heard Rabbi Manis talk about that, but you lay it out, I think, extremely well that how does that go over with some of your rabbi colleagues? Is that a bridge too far for them, or is that, are they,
Yes.
all right, it is a bridge too far?
Not for all of them. It's changing. It's changed so much in the last 5 years thanks to Rabbi Friedman's work. But yes, this is a huge, difficult topic. In fact, I have written that essay predominantly for my rabbi colleagues, and I'm hoping that they'll read it, because one of the things that they need to hear more than anything is the sources, and they think the sources don't exist. And so I'm trying to explain it to people that need that, because it is a bridge too far for some people until they see the source. And usually that at least surprises them. If it doesn't necessarily convince them, they might try to argue and say the source doesn't mean what I think it means, but I'm prepared for that as well.
Yeah.
You know,
So when you kind of make the claim that we're theomorphic, that we are the metaphor in Hashem's world, not meaning, and I think you do a good job of laying out that we're viewing Hashem from our perspective. We're not giving the thought to his perspective, whatever that could be. We don't know what that is. But in fact, yes, God does have a hand, not like our hand, which is, I guess, part of the Jewish argument of God's hand. Does he have a hand? Does he not have a hand? That I'm starting to discover. But when did you find this out, and that we're the metaphor, we're theomorphic?
when did I find it out?
Yeah.
I found out when I was a teenager. Rabbi Tatz, Rabbi Akiva Tatz, wrote a book called World Mask, and another book called The Thinking Jewish Teenager's Guide to Life. And he brought that idea there, and it blew my mind when I was a teenager. I was about 16, maybe, and I loved it. And then I went to yeshiva, and they tried to talk me out of it. So, it's a controversial idea, and it has to be expressed properly, which I believe I did in the essay. But it's more important than a lot of people give it credit for, and it's not spoken about a lot. But yes, that idea is a very ancient Jewish idea.
So Rabbi Friedman thinks that the whole notion of saying God can't need anything because he's one, he's infinite, he doesn't need, meaning, I guess, the lack, which has been addressed by him and you, I think, very well, that you're not talking need as a lack. You're talking need of it's who Hashem is. You could say he wants this, but when I talk to Rabbi Friedman, he goes, yeah, but if I use the word, want, then nobody gives it any thought of what I'm talking about. Almost like he's trying to be um, kind of stir the pot, just not to stir the pot, but stir the pot so it gets the creative juices flowing about this concept that I guess is not in the Hasidic world something they think about. When it's brought to me by Yoni and the rabbi and you, it makes all the sense in the world. So I'm wondering why on the Hasidic side it's not, and I don't know if it's a yeshiva problem or Manis talked about how he thinks it's an anti-Christian response where Christians try to place God in a incarnate form, which is just unthinkable for rabbis to think of that. So they push any thought of God being relatable to us. I don't know, maybe that's the wrong word, but I think you know what I'm talking about, because you do mention that we do make Hashem sterile. We do make him a concept rather than a creator, our God.
That's one.
Yeah, yeah. I found in your Mittler Rebbe comment on what I think is in my mind, I think of it as the cycle of discovery of you reach the ceiling, then you get clarity, but then you go to a next level and it's confusion, it's not clear, and you work that out until it becomes clear. And it's sort of what I think of a circle of discovery. But this is the controversial part that I don't mean any offense and probably not be good to put this out there. But it seems like in yeshiva where we have a problem with tradition and no thinking of discovery. There's no discovery here at all. It's almost afraid of going outside of the box of what's been taught. And I know that Yoni's brought this up with me in our personal conversations. Rabbi Friedman has, in some of our talks, not too much, but more Yoni of, yeah, where's the sense of discovery? Where's it just, it just doesn't seem to be there. And I understand there's so much halachic law to learn and so much Torah to learn and commentaries and the Talmud and the Zohar. You never get to personal discovery of what I think the Mittler Rebbe was talking about, of going to that next level. What do you think of that thought? It's just an outside observation of someone seriously trying to learn.
No, it's completely well-founded. Completely well-founded. There's a whole history behind that. And it depends how far back you want to go. You know how in Western society we have conservatives and liberals, right? I'm not going to get into modern politics, but just the essence. Conservatives, they resist change. They say everything's working fine as it is. Don't tinker with the system. Look what happened last time, etc. The liberal is that, hey, we're stuck, we're stagnating. There's better. Let's try. Let's experiment. Let's leap forward. Let's progress. Progressives, right? That is also true of Judaism for the last 3,370 years, 38 years now, since Har Sinai. We've had that same contention. We've been given a tradition. It was given to Moses at the top of Har Sinai, and our job, number one job, has been to preserve it word for word, not just the written Torah, the 5 books of Moses, but every single halacha that was given to Moses on Sinai, every single detail, every single piece. And that takes a tremendous amount of conservative energy. So much so that it's become a giant to conquer if you ever want to make the slightest bit of change, the slightest bit of taking things further. But all along the way, there's been step after step after step, especially in the last, let's say, 1,000 years or maybe 2,000 years, there's been times when it's been time to move forward a bit. Climb the ladder, understand what we couldn't understand yesterday. Now we can, maybe. Let's try it, let's tinker. And every single time it's been met with controversy, resistance, infighting, resistance. There was the Rambam, there was the Enlightenment of Kabbalah, there was the Arizal, there was the Baal Shem Tov, there was Chabad. And we're now sitting at a certain place in history now where it's still going on. But it's going to resolve soon, I think. Because Chabad have finally got to the top, I'd say, or there's always more, I guess. Hashem's essence is infinite. But they've answered the biggest questions that we need to answer before the Mashiach can come and really explain it. Not just Chabad, by the way, but let's say that the side of people who climb the ladder, including Chabad. And then there's the other side, which are now, when I was in yeshiva, even though they tried to talk me out of this idea, they are nonetheless didn't say, oh, this is treif, this is not kosher, you're not allowed to learn this, those guys are heretics. They kind of said, it's not for us. If they want to go and do all that, they can. And they didn't really understand it because they never even looked into it. But they were more open-minded. And it's a difficult relationship that's mending, let's say. And you will find, yes, there is still certain strongholds of the conservative feeling of no, halacha only. And whatever's been given to us by our sages from 500 years ago, that's the cutoff date. Everything since then, you can only learn like with a pinch of salt. But those are the real, the foundations, the fundamentals. And everything else since then is a bit wishy-washy. And then they don't realize, I think, what they're missing out. And, when Hashem wants everybody to know about him, it will happen. It might be a bit difficult, but it's going to happen. And this is, the Hashem need us is probably the final nugget that is difficult to chew. And eventually everybody, this time next year, this time in 10 years from now, I bet you any money, everybody will be like, yeah, of course Hashem needs me. Why is that even controversial? And Rabbi Freeman, of course, get no thanks for it. But you know how it goes. But so long as everybody eventually knows the truth about Hashem, Hashem is very patient. And what you're doing by interviewing Rabbi Friedman, by even interviewing me for whatever little worth it is, you're in your own way, starting the fire that needs to burn through the world, like the fire of joy and simcha that Hashem really needs us, and this relationship is real, and it's fabulous, it's fantastic, it's better than our wildest dreams. It's definitely, I can imagine now what Olam Haba, the world to come, is going to look like. Because if it looks like this, then I want to go.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you think maybe it's generational? Once some of the older, more traditional rabbis, pass on, and a younger generation of rabbis that's needed. And I'm not picking on, again, this isn't for public. This is between you and I. Is that kind of will help, obviously, or? I just don't know. It seems like in the Jewish tradition, just in general, there's a lot of you have to cling to tradition because that's how you survived for over 5,000 years. And trying to balance that with something new, probably the scariness of something new might move something in a different direction, and then we lose what we've had that whole time.
Yeah, especially like you said, you mentioned before, like reactionaryism to various events that have happened in the past, including Christianity, including to the Shabtai Tzvi movement, including the Reform Haskalah, the Enlightenment, the Jewish Enlightenment, where everybody started becoming secular, the Zionist movement, which in its early days was contentious. There's been a lot of things to react against, and we're still feeling some of that. Those walls that went up haven't come down yet. And I don't want to say that anybody needs to die for that to mend. I know that's not what you're saying, but there's something to it that as every new generation comes along is a bit more distant from that and a bit more, willing to pick up the torch. And to be honest, we've lost so many of our great leaders very recently. It's been a mad 15 years in the Jewish world. Like the amount of leaders that we've lost in just the last 15, 20 years alone, it's been much more than usual, I'd say. There's almost nobody left. It's now up to everybody now to pick up the torch. And that feels messianic. Feels like okay, what is the final generation going to do with all this knowledge that they threw over the, what do you call it in American football? The the line,
Yeah,
touch base
yeah,
line. They
yeah,
threw us the ball. Now it's in our hands. What are we going to do with it? You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, see,
Exciting.
I'm torn because as a non-Jew, and again, I'm not looking to convert. I'm looking just to be me and serve my God and bring heaven down to earth. That's my mission as a non-Jew. And with that said, we need Jewish rabbis to teach. We need the Jews to be the light of the nations. And I think that's starting to happen. I think it took Yoni a little bit of time to realize that I was serious, and some of the comments that his channel is now bringing in has been amazing. That he was surprised how many non-Jews are watching his channel, where he thought his channel was just, I've got to address the need controversy, and it was bringing in me, bringing in others. So I'm sort of like, okay, I have to take it to the source. I don't want any translation of King James Bible. I don't want any Christian. I want to go directly to the source, which has led me to where I am today of now taking Torah differently, understanding my role and trying to do my part. But I desperately need rabbis that will teach, that will continue to teach what is applicable to me. But it's been understandably a very, outside of Chabad, it's been very insular. It's been, no one's willing to do it. And I think that's changing, and it has to change. So I'm like, but I don't want the traditionalist that is the Jewish Judaism, if you'll say. I need that. I'm afraid I don't want that to be corrupted the way that, say, Christians can be corrupted with different denominations and so forth like that. So I yearn for the traditionalists, but yet, as we just talked about, I'm like, yeah, but are they also missing that next level of discovery because they just don't want to go there? I don't know. But that's sort of my game that I'm trying to balance in my head of, yes, we need that, but yes, there's still much more to learn. And of course, God's will happen, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of waiting. Like I keep saying to Rabbi Friedman, are the Jews ready to teach? Because we're coming. Before, wanted to kill you, wanted to limit, whatever the case may be. Don't live here, go somewhere else. But now it's, no, you have to teach us. Which, as you say, I think we've reached a messianic age. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to get as many as I can, and we'll teach. Don't worry. We
Yeah,
need to. One of the things that needs is a big kick in the backside. Let's say, for a rabbi is to see a comment from a non-Jew on Rabbi Freeman's video, whoever, saying, "Wow, is that what the Torah says? I want to know more." There's nothing more inspiring to a rabbi than to see that comment. I can assure you. It's unbelievable at first, absolutely unbelievable. Like you say, we've been too worried to teach, and there are, of course, still a lot of non-Jews alive that don't want to hear a word from us and want to try and
yep.
silence us, etc. But that doesn't matter. We're not afraid. If somebody wants to learn, yes, you have every right to learn. It's our job to teach you your Torah. It's yours as well. The parts of it that are written for you, the message that God had told us to give you is, if you want it, come and get it.
And I'm trying to, in my talks with Yoni and Rabbi Friedman, is trying to overcome, and it's not their problem to overcome, it's the Gentiles' problem of Jews are created differently than others. You're the chosen people. And getting over that hump that it's not a superiority complex, it's more of a Christianity, or should I say non-Jew, because I keep saying Christianity, but we're talking about all non-Jews, of Hashem loves everyone, everyone the same. We're all his children, and how we relate and how the reason why he created us is different, but we can all have a piece of the world to come. That should be the goal, not this, well, Jews think they're superior because they're the chosen people. Well, they have a godly soul. I don't have a godly soul. Okay, but I can attain the same heights through my love and service of my mitzvah to Hashem. And I just don't understand now that it's been brought to me what the issue is with hating Jews. Like it shouldn't be a thing. And maybe that's a traditionalist view of, well, that's just the way it's always been. I grew up in Boston, so most of my musical mentors were Jewish. I dated many Jewish girls, so it wasn't like maybe if I lived here in Oklahoma where there's not a big component of a Jewish community, maybe I would think differently, but it just was never in my culture, so to speak. But it's happening, and it's crazy how it's happening, that people are finally starting to understand Torah for Torah. I didn't even know what Torah meant, Rabbi. I didn't even know what it meant. I thought it was, well, you got your own thing. Wait a minute, it's our thing too, and it's basically the Old Testament, but really not translated well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a game changer. So God, it makes sense, I think, more to a non-Jew than to a traditionalist Jew.
Yeah, possibly.
I don't think there's much resistance there. Now, with the whole point of this is, how can we even have this conversation like your essay, when you talk about, ethnos is beyond ethnos. It always comes down to when we try to confine or label or find meaning with Hashem, we can't, because we just cannot understand, grasp. It almost seems in a way not a cop-out, but it's reality. And again, I think you nailed it, which has been a game changer for me, that no, we're looking at it from our point of view, not from Hashem's point of view. To him, everything he's got all the answers. We just can't possibly fathom it. And that's a radical departure from Christians, I think, because there is a part of that incarnate creation that they created of God. But how do you kind of move on? What's your next step from this essay? Where are you planning on trying to take your discovery? Or have you kind of felt you've reached a point of, I can't?
In what sense?
In the sense of trying to discover God's essence and taking it to the next level. Meaning, like you said, the Mittler Rebbe, you've gotten to that point. What's the next level for you of trying to take it?
So I think what I'm trying to really do with the essay and all of this is to, let's say like this, from the rabbi's point of view, the ones that I'm trying to talk to who are not liking what Rabbi Friedman is saying, their problem is, like you said, Atzmos is always described as impossible to understand, unreachable, ungraspable. So their conclusion is, so therefore we can't have a relationship with Hashem himself. Let's just focus on halacha, because at least that we can grasp. So what my essay comes along to do is to try to put sources to what Rabbi Friedman says, which is basically this. We have to realize what Atzmos means. What it means is, like you said at the beginning, it means me, myself. So let's say this. Every single person has a soul. And their soul has its own essence, Atzmos as well. Lahavdil, we say lahavdil, which means there is a difference, but not in the important thing that was what they used to conclude that I can't know. Meaning, I have a self, And myself is beyond love. It's beyond this all kinds of description, and you can't reach my essence. You can't. So all of those things that was said about God that put people off studying God are being misappropriately understood, because that doesn't mean what we think it means. Was it? You do know what that word means, or whatever. I'm trying to think of that movie quote. I don't think you mean what you think you mean, or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't mean what we think it means. When we say that Hashem's essence is unreachable, you also have a part of you that's unreachable. But nobody ever says, oh, so because my wife has got a part of her that's unreachable, I can't have a relationship with her. I need to just focus on sweeping the floor because I know she likes that, or something. It's the same thing here. I want people to get past this barrier, not by saying I can tell you what's on the other side of the barrier, but by saying that the barrier isn't a barrier like you think it is. You can have a relationship with Hashem just as much as you can have a relationship with anybody else, because the point is the relationship is the bridging of the two selves. You are basically, your wife enjoys it when you sweep. So you're not after the sweeping, you are after pleasing your wife, and you want to know that you are actually she's actually enjoying it, even though she has a part of it that's beyond enjoyment. So you say, oh, Hashem is beyond enjoyment, so therefore maybe the mitzvahs they must just be for me because he doesn't really enjoy them. No, that's not what it means. He does enjoy it. Don't mix up terms, don't mix up philosophies. I'm just trying to get people to be able to serve Hashem and know that he really needs it. It really is affecting him. It really is important to him himself on the highest level. And that's not what all this philosophy is not trying to undo that. The philosophy means something else, and you have to take each one by itself. Like, what does it mean that he's unreachable, etc.? And that's usually a philosophy as Atzmas thing. And then what am I going to take beyond that? My next step beyond that is, now that we get it, now can we go back to what we've had for the last 3,337 years, and can we now connect to it for real? Because until now we haven't. We've been thinking it's just a nice reward, it's a benefit, it's a whatever it is, and now we know it's not, it's for him. And that's true. That is not some Hasidic fluff. That is the truth, the scary but beautiful truth. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because yeah, I mean, I'm getting excited because that brings more clarity. But you're right, and you even mentioned that I think what did you say? The Alter Rebbe that said that the Torah is to be taken in simple meaning, and now you're taking it back and almost sort of not re-examining, but maybe look at it through a different lens. Now that you have this knowledge, that the Torah will reveal even more, is my hope. And boy, I mean, right there, I think that's a revolutionary thought. Yeah,
Me too. When I first heard it, it blew my mind as well, just as much as possibly.
It's just beautiful. And like you said too, and I know Rabbi Friedman mentioned this too, that, I mean, what a beautiful romantic God we have, creator that we have. Do you think that it could be that we as humans don't give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that we could possibly be that important to him?
Certainly some people. That is a teaching, isn't it?
Why would God be interested in me when there's 8 billion people here on earth? What makes me so important? And I don't know, I think maybe some people think of that. It's come across my mind. Some people, not just in any religion, I guess, or serving God, is they focus on sin rather than him. It's more on the rules, the regulations. I got to focus on, I need to, not do this particular sin. Well, that's self-control you're working on. It has nothing to do with your relationship with him. And I think there's some people, I've been guilty of that in the past, if I'm working on being a better person, but now thinking it that God needs us. Hashem needs me in this relationship. And for me to understand him better is by not doing this sin.
Exactly. You said it yourself. You said, I need to stop doing this. That's where you already went wrong. The first 3 words.
Yeah.
Change it. He needs me to. And then it's a whole different Torah. It's a whole different Torah.
I don't think there's anybody that has ever contradicted that man needs to be useful. Man needs to feel to be useful. Humans need to feel to be useful. I think that's part of the creation. We need to use our actions to our relationship. I mean, we're the best creation that he's created to do this. Our free will to serve him rather than not to sin. I think we look at it wrong sometimes. We need to think of him. And this is exactly the solution to that. He needs us. It's not that I need to be a better person. I need to not sin. Yeah, I think this is revolutionary. But yet it makes sense, Rabbi. Like, yeah, okay. Of course it does. I just haven't had it, explained this way or that aha moment, but it's also like, yeah, but I've always known this. Does that make sense?
That's exactly what the Lubavitch Rebbe always said. The Mashiach will come behesech hadas. Hesech hadas means when you're not paying attention, but what you could really translate that is, he's going to come in such a way that it just feels like, oh, well, yeah, of course. Like, it's not going to be a big surprise. It's going to be a big surprise, but you knew it all along. Exactly what you just said. So take that as you want. But I think this is very messianic. This is something that we've always known. I think Adam knew it before he ate the fruit. And for some reason, he wanted to take a 5,000-year break before dealing with it. And now we're at the point where we can deal with it. And it's scary.
Rabbi alluded to that, that the Rebbe talked about this, but he never really mentioned, or I never really got anything that the Rebbe talked about. Did the Rebbe talk about this topic, even in a roundabout way? And what was
directly? He spoke about this all the time. Every single one of his divrei Torah, and I'm in a good position to see this because I spent my first, say, 15 years of intense Torah learning non-Chabad Torah. So I can see the contrast, I can see the difference. His entire focus was to find every single different way that he can think of to try to get you to realize this one thing, which is, it's for him, it's not for you. And for some reason, even though it's obvious and it makes perfect sense, people have a tough time. It's like an assumption. It's like a lateral thinking puzzle. When somebody comes to you and says, this is a situation, now what's going on? And then you think, I'll give you an example. There's a riddle that I got stuck on for a long time once. The riddle goes like this. A little girl is told by her parents never to open the cellar door. One day when her parents are out, she opens the cellar door. What did she see? Now you're supposed to ask yes, no questions only. And through your questioning, you have to figure out what she saw. And so, I'm sorry I'm going to spoil the riddle now, but everybody assumes that she's on the outside of the cellar and there's something horrible in it. And it takes a good hour or two, even for smart people, to realize, oh, it's hot. It's morbid. Most lateral thinking puzzles usually are morbid, but it's morbid. She's been kept in the cellar by her parents and she's never allowed to leave. And you finally figure out that what she saw was the outside world. And it's exactly like that. It's one of those things where it's sitting right in front of our nose, but we can't see it. Even if I were to tell you directly, you would still not get it. So the Rebbe, every single one of his talks is all about doing it for Hashem and not for you. And he tries saying it this way, then he tries saying it that way, and he bases it on the parasha, and he bases it on Avraham, the story of Leah, whatever it is. But he's always saying the exact same thing. And he does even use the word need sometimes, believe it or not. So, yes, the Rebbe did talk about it. This was the Rebbe's whole mission, I'd say. I've seen enough of his talks now for the last however many years that I've been learning his Torah.
it's a question on the Rebbe. So when he passed away in 94, no successor,
Mhm.
yet Chabad has quadrupled.
Mhm.
I guess a tough question, but is there not meant to be another leader? Because now everything's there. It's for us to decipher, to discover, talk about that discovery moment again. And we don't need that, or if we do, or maybe this is the Mashiach who's is going to come sooner rather than later. We just need to do what has been asked, do what's been revealed, even though we might not have it, meaning it's probably right here, like you said, but we don't see it.
Maybe. I don't know. If you were to ask any Chabad guy in the world, why have you not found another Rebbe? They would just say, what do you mean? We still have the Rebbe. And they're not necessarily the ones that believe he's still alive or he's going to come back as Mashiach. Or a Rebbe is a teacher, and his teachings live on in his students. He, like the late Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of England, the chief rabbi of England, said, every other rabbi in the world created students. He created leaders. He created teachers. So I think his goal was, you now need. Can I just give you a bit of a background? Because again, I'm answering from a bit of an outsider point of view, so I can't necessarily give you the answer that a Chabad guy would give. So take it with a pinch of salt, but I think there's something to this. Something that the Rebbe said one Purim. He said, we are learning the mystical side of Torah now on a daily basis. That's what Chabad do day in, day out. They're learning Kabbalah with the Hasidic, like in music, you can have a theme, like a style of music. It's like the Hasidic style, but it's at root, it's Kabbalah. And Kabbalah at root is all of Torah. It's, all of halacha really has a Kabbalistic root. Everything is all connected. So it's not a different style of Torah, but it's the side of Torah, this is the key point, that was considered unrevealable except for very special, what's called anshe segula, like very sensitive souls that came along once a generation would be able to be taught this Kabbalah for the last at least 2,000 years, until Chabad came along, let's say. Or I'm going to take it back further, hold on. So that's how it was. And it's a very sensitive subject. It's a very deep subject. It's a dangerous subject. Secret side of Torah. And to this day, some people still feel like it should be secret. That's part of the complicated resistances that we have in fighting and politics in the rabbinic world. Anyway, this is what the Rebbe said. He said, first came the Zohar. The Zohar was written thousands of years ago, over thousands of years, put together bit by bit, finally redacted by one of the Tanaic rabbis of the Gemara, of the Mishnah, really, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And then it had to go underground for whatever reason. And so that's when it began getting passed on rabbi to rabbi, special in secret. Then the Zohar was worked on in the background by other people along the way, these anshe segula that we're talking about, and it did grow, but we lost touch of it. The general Jewish world didn't know of this text. And then in the 1400s, it finally emerged, of course with controversy, like we've been discussing before. But eventually it's been accepted as an authentic work of Shimon Bar Yochai and authentic Kabbalist. And this is an authentic, this is the holiest rabbinic work, let's say, that we've got that explains the Torah. The secrets that were given to Adam have been passed on through Avraham, through Yitzchak, through David, through Shlomo. It's all here. These are the secrets of Hashem, of our soul, of heaven, And now that we have it, we can start studying it more. It doesn't have to be just these special anshe segula anymore. So then the Arizal came along, and he basically, because it was still quite cryptic, it's poetic, it's hard to understand what it's talking about. So he explained it, but he only lived for about 39 years. So he had to cram his explanation into what's called, let's say, the written Torah of Kabbalah. Like, the written Torah and the oral Torah. So it's like, this is the written Torah of Kabbalah. It's it's all written out in brief, but word for word, every letter is important, and all the information is there. It's still very hard to penetrate. So then the Baal Shem Tov came along about 100 years later, and he made what's called the oral Torah of Kabbalah. He explained the Arizal's work, but he never wrote anything down. His prime student was the Maggid of Mizrich, and he explained it further. But again, nothing was really written down. They both have 1 or 2 books, that's it. Finally came along the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, and this is what the Rebbe says, he now made it available for everybody. The Baal Shem Tov's teachings went to everybody already, but he now made it graspable. He brought it down into almost an academic level. Now, it's not this lofty subject, although it still is, but now we have access to it through our comprehension. Our left brain, as much as our right brain, has now arrived at the ability to understand this. So now he's saying we're living in a very privileged generation where everybody, I don't think he says everybody, but he says many, many, many are now privileged. We should realize how lucky we are that we have been given permission, with joy, an invitation to learn the true secrets of what it's all about, the secret of life, the secret of Hashem, your relationship with him, and all these ideas. That's where Hashem needs us comes from. That's where it really comes from. Although you find its sources in the Torah, that's where it's really brought out. I can't remember why I started saying this, but that was in answer to what you just asked, which is basically, yeah, we're in a unique situation now that we have access to all this, and we really do. And I'm making it my job to carry on in the same tradition to try and explain it, so more and more people can know the good news. to pick a time.
It seems like 2 things: either human, or it could be both. Humans, humans over thousands and thousands of years continue to mature.
Yep.
Or it could also be, it's definitely this. It's divine providence. You believe in divine providence. You can't say, well, we shouldn't have, Kabbalah being studied by anybody except these people, but yet it is. So it's not like a government worker, leaking information. This is God's will. Yeah, it's God's will. And that's just amazing. We have to be getting close. And I think people are getting it. And, like Rabbi Friedman mentions all the times, pills aren't working, medication's not working. People just want to serve. They want to be useful. It's there, but they need somebody to teach it to them, which goes back to my whole point of, okay, I don't consider myself a Noahide only because there are Noahide communities sparsely in the United States. Well, then we're creating our own religion. Politics will come into play. Well, I want to be a high priest Noahide. I'm saying, well, there is now.
That's exactly what the Rambam said.
Really?
Yeah, even Noahide's not allowed to start a new religion.
Yeah. So it's, maybe we don't need religion. Maybe we just need to serve and love our God.
Exactly.
And leave it at that. But that's where I'm like, okay, but we need the Jewish rabbis. Like, I can't read Torah unless someone's helping me. And
you should.
Rabbi Yoni's helping me, Rabbi Friedman. I'm so blessed by being, I guess you could say, friends with Yoni now. We talk quite a bit, that I'm blessed that I actually get to ask Rabbi Friedman questions that really, my learning, but obviously it goes out to others. But I have to have that. Can't study Kabbalah by reading it. Doesn't make any sense. It's so mystical. It's so, I don't. And I need somebody. And I just hope that, the rabbis are ready for the challenge. They're busy doing their own thing, trying to serve, fellow Jews and bring other Jews, to be more observant. But here we come, 8 billion non-Jews, or 7 billion or whatever it is. It's going to be a fascinating time to live in, I think. Yeah, I really do. I really do. The only thing, maybe my suggestion, if you wanted to take your essay to even a further thing, is maybe I had to do this for my dissertation. There are some different academic studies just on self and cultural psychology, and I bet you, having the brilliant mind that you do, you might be able to tie some of that into your essay. I think there's some things there that you can put a Hasidic slant to it rather than just academic scholars coming up with different theories. There's some good theories, but you might find something there that might help you with relating to our God. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you have anything in mind? The study of self?
Yeah, I can send you just some things. Like I had to do a lot of this during my my literature review for my dissertation, which was now 14 years ago. But I think I summarize a lot of self. The problem with the academic side is it goes into self isn't the total way, the end result of who a person is. The academic side say self is part of it, but then it creates identity after that. So I think they got it mixed up. But there's still, I think, some good in there that maybe would say, hey, I didn't think of that or from this angle, but it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I'll email some stuff. Just quick reading on it. Nothing major. Yeah. Yeah.
There is a discussion about where identity itself first appears in the chain of expression. And in theory, in a sense, the concept of identity is also part of expression. It gets really, really abstract. And there's still an essence beyond that. That is usually considered the ayin of Keter, for example. And Hashem's eye is the ayin in Malchut, the ayin Sof. So it is very interesting, but we do say Hashem's essence is in the bechina, the level of you. When we say you, we're talking about Hashem himself on the highest level. It's not even a level, but yeah, I would like to see. It sounds like that I wouldn't say that they go off base. They might have found something, but it'd be nice to see how it maps onto what we've received, the blueprint that we've received of what's really going on, the fact that they've discovered it. It's always nice to see how well they align. And it might even lead to better ways to explain things, which would always be useful.
Yeah, like I say, it might not. The more I've lived, and obviously I like reading and I like discovering myself, but it just always comes down to we think that we're the greatest generation of intelligence, but they had it figured out a long time ago. There's not much there as far as any things that we're talking about. They've kind of figured it out. And I think we're just trying to decipher it in our own world that we have to live in. But I kind of sounds like it's all there. We just got to discover it.
A lot of it was received. A lot of it was received. So we've got a tradition that says who got what. Adam was taught some of this by an angel, specifically called Raziel, and he wrote it down in a book. And he passed that book on to his son Shet, and his son Shet passed it on to Enoch, and he passed it on to how do you say it? Methuselah.
Yeah.
And then it eventually made its way to Noah, and then to Abraham, and we've got every single name right up until the beginning of the chain of the rabbis that are mentioned in the Mishnah. And then from there we can trace it down to the Rebbe. And I think part of the problem was that it's so abstract that from that side of things, yes, we received it, but trying to make sense of it and find ways to explain it and really understand it, that is its own study. That's also, so had they figured it out? Yes, but had they figured all of it, maybe in some ways we understand it better. You know, some ways we understand it better, but in some ways we don't. And it's a nice little seesaw. There's a descent of the generations, and there's an ascent of the generations as well, in different things, different areas.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah. Well,
And you were saying before, maybe part of the reason why we have it is not just divine providence, although of course that's the primary, but also because we're more mature now. Did you hear that from Rabbi Friedman? That's something that he says. We are a bit more mature now.
maybe subconsciously. I mean, because I've listened to a lot, so maybe it's infected my brain, sure. But I don't really remember that. But yeah, it just seems like the whole story of the Jewish people just seems like all the way from uh, leaving Egypt. It's just been a learning cycle for them. They're almost, very they had to learn. They were just slaves. They didn't really have to think about much, and they had to grow up. That's where I got that from.
Right.
But I'm sure it was influenced by Rabbi Friedman. I'm sure.
Yeah, so the whole world has grown up with us. I think we have been a light, maybe the one that works in the background rather than. But I think the whole world now is more mature. We are able to hear it. In the same way that a child may not be ready to hear that his father needs him. His father needs him to be good. His mother cries every night herself to sleep, worrying about him. You don't tell the child that. You don't tell the 10-year-old boy that because he can't handle it. But once he's got kids of his own and it starts to happen to him, then you can think about it. Oh, you know what? My daddy probably felt this way about me. And so in the same way, we've matured as a people, as Bnei Adam, the children of Adam, all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, I won't keep you any more of your time. I do appreciate you meeting with me, and it's good to get to know you. And I enjoy your videos. I really enjoyed your essay. It made things I think it just moved the whole notch of the whole need question, because I know that Yanni's been dealing with this for 15 years, and I think this contribution is should be received extremely well. How has it been received? Have you been getting a lot of heat? Has it been a lot of
No, I've got much less than I was fearing. I've got much less than I was fearing. Nothing bad has happened to me. I haven't been banned or banished or put into exile. I've had some bad comments in certain videos, but generally speaking, it's all gone very well. I would like to just continue what I'm doing and reach more people and add my little contribution. And it's a big thanks to Yoni. He's also, I met him a few years ago, and he's brought me in and given me my opportunities and shown me the sources that got me started. So it's all thanks to him. I've discussed them with him, and obviously it's a big thanks to Rabbi Friedman as well. He is my real teacher, even though I don't learn with him mouth to mouth, like face to face, as often as I'd like. But I've listened to all his videos. It's all there. He explains everything crystal clear, and all I really wanted to do was find the sources, and every single thing that he said has got a source, and that's why this essay is going to turn into a book eventually. So hopefully that will be even more. I'm trying to write a whole book on the entire question of Hashem needs, explaining that was just kind of the soul part of it. How, one philosophical point, essence, expression, because we need that in place before we can explain what need really means. Because I didn't really get into that in the essay. Rabbi Friedman, that's his whole channel. So essay could be a good start for people that want to know the sources. And thank you for everything nice that you said about it. It really means a lot to me. I'm really happy you read it. It's been very nice to meet you.
I've read it several times, and of course read along with the videos as well, which is for me extremely helpful. It's just the way that I think too. But I think though that nobody, even with Rabbi Friedman, once it's explained, nobody has a problem with the idea. They just seem to get stuck on the needy part. even though you've explained in nauseating terms that it's not needy, but I don't know, I think maybe between you and I, Rabbi Friedman just put it in there just to stir the pot, just because how is it going to get attention if it's not a little controversial, right word, but more thought-provoking? Because I think that is the true thing, is we're focused too much on rituals, we're focused too much on law, and we're not focused on him, like you wrote about, his essence. You
Yeah,
could say,
I'll give you one. Sorry.
no, I
I'll
mean,
give you one. Yeah. No, I'll let you finish. Sorry.
I think it's spot on, and I don't think it's his wants. People say his wants. It's not his wants. It's not his wants. And some people even I hear talk about why he created this or that, as well, he's just experimenting. Well, of course, Hashem doesn't experiment. He doesn't mix two chemicals together to see what happens.
Social
So
experiments. See what they'll do.
yeah, no, I've even read that, and I've even heard some people ask Rabbi Friedman that. Well, maybe God's just experimenting.
Right.
Yeah, okay, he's experimenting. But yeah, this is he chose this, but he couldn't chose this, like Rabbi Friedman says. At first, it didn't. It was like, what are you saying here? And it's like, yeah, because of who he truly is, his essence. He didn't really have a choice. Makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, but try saying that to somebody who's too well learned in the sources. I'll tell you one thing. I want to finish with this because you probably heard this story from Robert Friedman also many times, but this is where I think he got the word. This story seems to be the key story in his life, and it also helps you understand what he means by it. Because I don't think he's just trying to stir the pot. I think it's a nice bonus for him. But he said the first time, or maybe it's not the very first time, but one of the first times the word really stood out to him was when somebody called him up, an anonymous person from Portland, and he said, I'm Jewish by birth, but I have been raised Christian. And I spent my whole life being a good Christian, but now I'm in my later years and I want to do something Jewish now. So can you put me in touch? So Rabbi Freeman said to him, well, didn't know what to say. So the typical thing, Chabad guy, put on some tefillin, right? And the guy says, no, I can't put on tefillin. I always have bad experiences with things like tefillin. So Rabbi Freeman gets annoyed with him and just basically says, look, if you want to feel like a Jew, you need to do what Hashem needs from a Jew. Otherwise, you carry on doing what he needs from a Christian. But if you want to feel like a Jew, you need to do what he needs from a Jew. And he needs to fill in. And the man said, needs? God doesn't need anything. And Rabbi Freeman said, what did Rabbi Freeman say in response to that? I can't remember. But either way, the man hung up at that point. And the man called back a few days later and said, look, I've been thinking about it and you're right. I'm a psychiatrist. And we teach all the time that if a man loves a woman, but he doesn't mean it, it's not real, meaning he doesn't need to love her, doesn't need her, then he doesn't really love her. He's actually just trying to manipulate her. Vulnerable love is another word for need. And we do use it that way in English too. This psychiatrist, it's his profession to use it that way. So yes, the word need is not just a tricky word to annoy people. It actually is used that way in English too. And when it's used that way in English, it's the right word to describe what Hashem means, at least as close as we can get. If anything, it should be even more. So I think that's what I want to leave off on. Although you're happy to have the last word, but does that make sense?
It does. Is there a Hebrew word that would better describe that?
The thing about Hebrew is there's quite a few words that would describe that. So it depends what level you want to talk about it on. Because when you get into the world of essence and expression, you've also got a whole chain, the lowest to the highest, and the same word will appear as it is on that level. I would say one of the highest words for need is teshukah or ta'ava, a craving, a passion, a irrational yearning. And even higher than that, probably the highest word that we have is echad, one, oneness. You are me. I need you.
Wow. Wow.
If that's not what Hashem's about, then what is? Oneness.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I'm glad I asked that question. Yeah,
Well,
that's
I'm very
great.
happy to talk again. If you would like to talk another time,
Yeah,
anytime.
I mean, I didn't think, I mean, my plan wasn't to try to make a video just because uh, I wanted to kind of talk through some things like that. But yeah, if you ever want to, I've got a bazillion questions where you can do the talking instead of me. I know I did a lot of talking today. Um, that's, yeah, I'm totally up for that.
Let's definitely do it then. Okay.
Anything
Agree on it?
else? Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you much. And I will send you the link today, and I'll also send you some of that reading stuff I talked about.
Appreciate it. Okay. Be well. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.